Well, I thought that it was 10:11, so we should probably get started.
Yeah.
This is Mass Hysteria, and we're going to start off with some song.
I wanted to do a cold open with it, but
Okay.
this is...
Well, let's pretend this is something else. And we can't really do that. We'd have to stop the recording, right?
No, it's okay. We can just proceed.
Welcome.
I'm a big fan of
Let the sun go all the way.
leaving my mics on. Don't know these effects are working out.
Into a world where side by side they all can find a perfect way.
Polemic Consortium presents Say It Loud, New Songs for Peace. This is Michael Moore in Bush.
The terrain is somehow consoling. Okay. Now, as the doctor mentioned, I've written quite a bit on this topic. In fact, I think one book is 480 pages and the other one is longer. So that means I have a lot to say.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward.
I don't have any conclusions here, but as a citizen, I'd like to ask a few questions. And that's a question I'd like answered. What are the financial connections between the Bush and the Bin Laden family over the years? Now, what's that all about? Because if you go to the BBC website, you'll see a story that starting in 1995, the Taliban first sent a delegation to Houston to meet with oil company executives while George W. Bush was president. What's that all about? Well, they were there to discuss the building of a pipeline across Afghanistan, the Unocal pipeline. Who was going to help build the pipeline? Halliburton. Who's the head of Halliburton? Big Dick Cheney. Now, what's that all about? Big Dick Cheney. Now, what's that all about? Big Dick Cheney. He blew it when he got in bed with Kenny Boy because there's nothing worse you can do to the average American now than tell them their 401k is not safe. Your 401k is not safe. So let's go running to the stock market. They'll save us. Let's all get a 401k. And then the seventh largest company in the country, every single pensioner, retiree, or person who works for that company has lost their pension. The company that handpicked the head of the regulatory agency that's supposed to oversee Enron. The company whose vice president is now the Secretary of the Army. The company whose lawyer is now the White House counsel. The company whose accounting firm, their lawyer, is now the head of the Security and Exchange Commission, and his job is supposed to oversee the phony baloney, crap-baloney stock prices. People get it, man. They're not stupid. They get it out there, and they're frightened, and they're scared of him, not Osama bin Laden.
Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
And I'll never believe anything that anyone in power tells me again. I start with the assumption they're lying, and it is their job to prove to me they're telling the truth. Now what's that all about? They're tired of the lies. They know this is all a lie. They know they're being lied to. I got it figured out, folks, all right? We live in a country, look, the reason why he gets the 80% approval rating is because the American people, like any group of humans, when attacked, when they believe that their loved ones possibly could be killed, have a tendency to rally behind the leader, whoever the leader happens to be. It's not that they love George W. Bush. It's more like love the one you're with. If that's what we're stuck with, okay, I guess, yeah, let's go with it. Plus, remember that the working people of this country and the poor are sent over there to die, all right? So they don't want to mess things up. That's the climate we're living in. The Ashcroft assault on our rights climate that we're living in. If that's the climate you're living in and you're an average American and it's 9 o'clock at night and a stranger calls you up and says, "Hello, I'm a pollster.
Would you like to hear about Thomas Drake?
I'd like to ask you a question. Do you approve of the President of the United States? We'd like to know." What? Now think of it. What's the average person going to say to that question in a time like this? I approve.
I would like to hear about
Yes.
Thomas Drake.
Yes, I approve. Absolutely approve. Don't take me away. Now, what's that all about?
I have a recording.
Here's the political climate. The shredding of our Constitution, the taking away of our civil liberties, the imprisonment of people tonight that we don't even know who their names are. We don't know how many there are. We don't know where they're imprisoned. But somewhere in America tonight, sitting in prisons, are people who have been charged with no crime, and they've sat there for the last 6 months in the United States of America.
resolve of our great nation is being tested. Make no mistake. We will show the world that we will pass this test.
Those in power are able to manipulate us. They're able to get through their stealth bombers. They're able to get through their stimulus bill because they know we're frightened and they take advantage of it. And it's only when we start having the courage to our convictions and start standing up and having the guts to say what we want to say.
We're pleased to be
and
joined
ask the
today by
questions that
Thomas
need to be
Drake,
asked,
a
and to
former
dissent,
senior executive
because
at the
there's
National
nothing more
Security
American.
Agency.
There's nothing
A 10-year
more
veteran of the Air
patriotic
Force,
than to
he
dissent.
served as a CIA
Need to
analyst
dissent.
and
And now,
contractor
folks,
for the
the
National
time
Security Agency
to
for
dissent.
12 years before
Dissent.
joining it full-time in
Dissent.
2001.
Dissent.
In
Dissent.
2007,
Dissent.
the U.S. government investigated
Dissent.
Thomas Drake for giving unclassified information about the
Don't
Bush
be
administration's domestic spying
afraid.
program
Please, I
to a
beg you to
reporter.
do this.
Mr. Drake thought the incoming Obama administration would drop the investigation. He was wrong. In April 2010, Mr. Drake was indicted under the Espionage Act for willfully retaining top-secret defense documents, a charge that was eventually dropped. The Obama administration has prosecuted 6 people under the 1917 statute, more than all previous administrations combined. Mr. Drake, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to Sounds of Dissent.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Amy.
It's a pleasure. There's a certain irony in congressional attacks on this administration this past week for breaches of state secrets, as you perhaps know better than anyone. This administration has prosecuted more government whistleblowers than any administration in history. Give us the Obama administration's track record on enforcing government secrecy.
Well, they certainly are evidencing what I can only call the height of hypocrisy, that they're more than willing to prosecute to the full extent of the law out of the Justice Department for whistleblowing. Whistleblowing is by definition in the public interest, and yet they're certainly leaking like a police sieve from the very top of the administration on a routine basis now, as we've seen evidence of in the last couple of weeks.
Tell us a little bit about the people that have been prosecuted by the Obama administration under the Espionage Act. Who were they? You were the fourth. Who were the others?
Well, I was the fourth that was actually charged on the Espionage Act as a non-spy. You have to remember the Espionage Act was specifically created, it was always been a controversial statute to go after spies, not whistleblowers. So only the fourth person in history, Daniel Ellsberg, was actually the first person in history to be charged on the Espionage Act in the same manner that I was. And under this administration, there's already been 6 individuals prosecuted under the Espionage Act. That's more than all other administrations combined. And
can you tell us about John Kiriakou? He was the latest person he was charged just this past April. He was indicted.
Sounds like an Italian
also as a whistleblower for giving an on-camera interview to ABC News. He's a former CIA agent who disclosed a CIA waterboarding.
That's correct. I consider John Kiriakou to be the new Tom Drake. I mean, 2 of the biggest scandals that came out of the Bush administration were, the huge rendition and torture black site program, as well as the warrantless wiretapping program. And so, isn't it ironic that the only, for those, no one has been prosecuted for having created those programs or having implemented those programs, but the people that expose those programs have been prosecuted by this administration.
We want an open government.
He did not accept that torture was legal. He refused the training.
Perhaps we could start, though, by your telling why you chose to investigate the NSA and where your special expertise comes from. Well, in 1967, when I joined the Navy, I became a sort of employee of the National Security Agency by way of one of its service security group. And I served in the Naval Security Group from 1967 until 1971, during which time I was actually involved in some of the electronic espionage activities that NSA undertakes. So what we have with us today is someone who's actually employed by the NSA. I suppose the appropriate place to begin now that we've established that you're an expert is, what's the NSA do? I know that it seems to be the largest of the intelligence agencies within our intelligence community. Probably not just the largest in our own intelligence community, but very likely the largest in the world.
Leaking is very, very different. Leaking is not in the public interest.
And stay with his people. And I'm just so happy. I go to bed happy. I wake up happy. And I'll go to jail for 10 years happy. And it'll always be said, there's one that didn't compromise. See, there are only two kind of men. Those who compromise and those who take a stand. Those who take a stand and the ones who write history.
Approximately 18 minutes, 2.5 minutes to some good music.
They go in space every day now. But John Glenn was the one who dared to dare. He conquered the first. I didn't get the beacon to go back. And then I wanted to make a do this and do that. And then when the white man put the pressure on, they back up. But I'm one who I hope and pray to Allah and his messengers that I be one black man that they can look at and say, turn down all $10 million in commercials, royalties. Turn down the world heavyweight title. Where is he at? There he is, over there, sitting on the garbage can with the wine head. He don't have to be over there. There he is. There he is, picking up the brother out alley, taking him to the movie theater. There he is. He really don't have to do it. See, they have to look at me now greater than just in a boxing ring. Good fight, boy. White man got all the money. Two niggas put each other and look at him on the back. Good fight, boy. Great fight, boy. Good show, boy. Good dancing, boy. They can't look at me like that. See, I get all respect because I follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You may not like Rap Brown or Stokely Carmichael, but they get more respect than the richest Negroes in America, the most white folks loving Negroes in America. When Rap Brown and Stokely Carmichael walking in a tree, traffic stops. Rap Brown, there he is. Stokely Carmichael, where white folks jumping out the windows looking at him, wanting to touch him. They admire warriors because they are warriors. They believe in dying and fighting for what they believe. They giving up $90 million a day in Vietnam and the guts of the children for a principle. They died and fought the Indians. Money don't mean nothing when your people are free and hungry catching hell. So all of these so-called Negroes listen to this show. I hope you learn something from this. Damn some money when it comes to your mama's freedom. You're so quick to go to Vietnam and fight and shoot, kill somebody you don't know, fighting so they can be free, and you come home and you get your head busted. So if I gotta die, if I gotta sacrifice, if I gotta suffer, let it be for my black brothers and sisters. Let it be for my mama and not somebody 10,000 miles from here. So when you understand what I'm saying, when you weigh it out, if it means money or Tom, damn the money. Tom, so if I gotta die, if I gotta sacrifice, if I gotta suffer, let it be for my black brothers and sisters. Let it be for my mama and not somebody 10,000 miles from here. So understand what I'm saying. When you weigh it out, if it means money or Tom, damn
he gives
the
a homily once a year on contraception and contraception. Take your while to see what he's up to, but it's a one sentence on the church's teaching on contraception. And it goes, if you don't want to go to Minneapolis,
AAA be rates
on the train. Okay? I think for Rabbi Bethel, you have a whole hour to think about that.
Music label in Laverne.
Conversation on contraception. There's a
you focused on capabilities in the military field, in the diplomatic field. Does your research suggest that they are only in those fields of electronic surveillance?
So I think I find that NSA would probably have been involved with a wide variety of domestic intelligence
gathering operation. By domestic, you mean gathering intelligence in the United States. It's really a media campaign using highly classified information to make the administration look good. I mean, it's really the paradox of power here.
Well, it's interesting because the Obama administration is, of course, denying this. And yesterday, Attorney General Eric Holder assigned 2 U.S. attorneys to lead separate criminal investigations into these disclosures and said that the unauthorized disclosure of classified information can compromise the security of this country and all Americans, and it will not be tolerated. Now, there were some allegations that some of these leaks, in fact, came from the Justice Department.
Well, that's very possible. I mean, I will tell you from my own experience with Eric over the past couple of decades, that the vast majority of so-called leaks, okay, or authorized leaks, which is an oxymoron, the vast majority of those come from the executive branch.
Let's talk about your case. You identified the September 11, 2001 attack as a turning point in both your own life and in the direction of the National Security Agency where you were working. For listeners who are unfamiliar with your case, tell us briefly what you learned about the National Security Agency in the wake of 9/11 and why you went public with it.
Well, I didn't go public for many, many years. I became a whistleblower within the system. In summary, I mean, what I found in my report after 9/11 was very, very quickly, within the days and weeks following the heinous attack on American soil and the 3,000 people that were murdered, that the United States, at the highest levels of government, decided to completely bypass the Constitution on many fronts. And as Dick Cheney himself has said, former Vice President Cheney, that we're going to go to the dark side. What I discovered at NSA is that General Hayden, who was the former director of NSA and the director of NSA at that time, entered into an agreement, an arrangement with the White House, in which NSA would become the executive agent for this quote-unquote surveillance program. A surveillance program that we still do not know, unlike a lot of the other secret government, we still do not know the full extent which that has been implemented within this country.
That was a data mining program at the NSA called Thin Thread. Could you explain what that program was originally designed to do, and then what happened to it after 9/11?
Well, Thin Thread was actually an alternative to a much larger program that it also incorporated all the legal protections under the Fourth Amendment for U.S. persons. In essence, it actually implemented the spikes of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, in which you are required to have a warrant when you want to electronically surveil a U.S. person, which is a resident alien, U.S. citizen, or a U.S.-based corporation. Thin Thread had actually solved the major problem NSA was having, the 90s, having to deal with all the vast amount of digital data streaming across the internet. And make sense of it all. It has solved the core challenge problem from NSA. Now, what they chose to do...
Wait, this was... What is the data mining? What is data mining? Just again, because I don't think many of us had heard of this.
Data mining is really what the super secret program, which is called Stellar Wind, was all about. They just simply gained access to massive amounts of private Fourth Amendment protected information and just brought it into the government system, either directly or through a lot of arrangements were made the number of telecommunication concerns and threats to provide to gain access to that information. The data mining is you're gaining access to all information, and then you're looking at where people are located, what they're doing, what they're up to, or what they're involved in.
So wait, we're talking about emails, are we talking about text messages, are we talking about cell phones, landlines?
All landlines, wired, wireless. Basically, the edict went out. You just need the data. Get it any way which way you can.
And what happens to it?
It's collected, it's stored, it's put into various databases, and then it's analyzed both through computers and by humans. The problem is that there's so much out there. Well, because of 9/11, it kind of went to the other extreme, and they made this is the key though, is they chose to bypass the Constitution, completely violate the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and just turn the United States of America into the equivalent of a foreign nation for the purpose of electronic blanket dragnet electronic data mining surveillance.
Because there was a way to encrypt the data to protect U.S. citizens, and that's in fact what the developer of the program, Bill Binney, one of them, I know you worked on the program as well, that was what was intended to encrypt this information when it came from U.S. citizens. And that was is that the information you went to the Baltimore Sun reporter with in 2007?
There was a legal alternative. There was no need to go to the dark side. It would have been all done above board, and it would have completely protected U.S. persons under the Fourth Amendment and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which is important to note to your listening audience was the exclusive means, although there are other statutes, laws, and acts, was the exclusive means by which you could legally violate a U.S. person's Fourth Amendment right, okay, for national security reasons. You still have to have a warrant, although you could do hot pursuit, but then you would, for a short period of time, under certain conditions, but you still have to go back to the secret court for the warrant. They chose to bypass it, so it's not for the warrant. They chose to bypass it, so it wasn't just that the wheels came off the Constitution. We were in an entirely different vehicle. And we opened up the Pandora's box, and that strategic decision to do so has had any number of intended and unintended consequences. The point now that even NSA is building this vast data center out in Roughdale, Utah, which is supposed to come online based on public reporting sometime in 2013.
You're referring to, there's an article for listeners if they want to look for it. James Banford wrote in Wired magazine in March about this new National Security Agency data center, right?
Yeah.
And the National Security Agency alone, even without this data center, it's already the largest spy agency in the world. There's a piece written about your case by Jane Meyer in the New Yorker magazine. She said, not only is it the largest spy agency in the world, she said it had the capacity to intercept and download every 6 hours electronic communications equivalent to the contents of the Library of Congress. And now there's another one.
Right, and that's only increasing. In fact, there's so much data now, they just don't have anywhere. Remember the old Amazon.com commercials where they were looking for a warehouse space to put their books?
Yes.
NSA, this is basically the secret cloud for them and others who will have access to it. So they want to store all the stuff they're collecting and then sort through it later. You never know. Remember, you never know when you might need it. So having vast dossiers of information, individual profiling on millions and millions and millions of people records of that. Remember, part of the concern I have, frankly, is this is anathema form of government. Having this type of information without real accountability or oversight will be provided by other parts of government, like Congress. Part of this concern was born out of what we used to do an RC-155. I was a linguist. The country of, I became an expert in was Germany. They had a secret police called the Stasi. That's what their motto was, to know everything. And demonstrably efficient at knowing everything they could about everybody, anybody in their country.
There's a suggestion that something bigger is driving the growth of government surveillance and secrecy that is possibly independent of whoever is president. Jack Balkin, a law professor at Yale, has suggested we're witnessing the bipartisan normalization and legitimization of a national surveillance state like nothing we've ever seen before. Your response?
Yeah, it's one of the great fears that Frank Church had. Remember, a lot of this concern about a secret national security state or surveillance state came out during the 1970s after the government had severely abused its own powers and had done illegal surveillance and monitoring of war activists, journalists, reporters, and others dissidents that it didn't like, or had decided to turn them into political enemies. There was a number of hearings that took place, including a series of hearings by Frank Church. He warned the country about what would happen if technology became such. You would have that part of the government, like NSA, having the ability to monitor just about any kind of electronic and then some in the country. Essentially what's happened is the government has wired the country for surveillance. That's already in place.
Thank you, Thomas Drake. I'm afraid we're going to have to end here.
Well, thanks for having me, Amy. I know it's on a very critical topic. I certainly am concerned, and about the future of what we're seeing. And I'm going to continue to speak out about the need to return to our Constitution. I want to get my country back.
Where can people find more information about your case and the work that you're doing?
Well, the Government Accountability Project has been incredibly supportive and an advocate and outreach for me during the pendency of my public trial. I was able to prevail and hold off the government. After all was said and done, after I was faced with 10 felony counts. So that's just whistleblower.org. There's a lot of information out there about my case as well as other whistleblowers.
Thank you, Thomas Drake. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
I've been speaking with Thomas Drake, former senior executive at the National Security Agency and government whistleblower who was prosecuted by the Obama administration under the 1917 Espionage Act. For Sounds of Dissent, I'm Amy Grunder.
Right, okay, for national security reasons. You still have to have a warrant, although you can do hot pursuit, but then you would, for a short period of time, under certain conditions, but you still have to go back to the secret court for the warrant.
Is hope. It's hope that, like me, who thought there was a billionaire, that I took the opportunity to try to complete
it seems like the American people, all of them, no matter what age they were, had a reference for
Because I know this, because you constantly hear the word earn.
An interview I found on YouTube.
And really,
Search for Brand Leibowitz on Occupy Wall Street.
You earn $10
I can't
an
find his
hour.
name right now. I thought I had.
It's absurd. So I would like to see some higher, in his direction, and I would also, people should notice. I mean, I don't know if they do because they may be preoccupied with, greater ideals. But the response of the city in general is a response having totally to do with jockeying position for the next election, which everyone thinks because they wish was this.
Fun vacation there. More fully enjoy this comfortable, relaxed place to sit or lie back. And as you feel yourself going with the flow of this pleasant feeling of comfort, relaxation, you feel a greater feeling of safety and security than you have felt for long. Your concentration is improving, and you're able to see things in their true perspective more now than you have for quite some time.
Practically crying standing next to the councilman.
You are relaxed. What are you feeling?
And she was like Bambi.
As you continue to enjoy this awareness, you can recognize this wonderful feeling of
wanting to take it over and
there's a suggestion that something bigger
feeling of being at peace and harmony with yourself. You can recognize this wonderful feeling of being at peace and harmony with yourself. You can recognize this wonderful feeling of being at peace and harmony with yourself.
There's a suggestion that something bigger is driving the government driving the growth of government surveillance and secrecy that is possibly independent of whoever is president. Jack Falcon, a law professor at Yale, has suggested we're witnessing the bipartisan normalization and legitimization of a national surveillance state like nothing we've ever seen before. Suggestion that is driving the growth of government surveillance and secrecy that is possibly independent of whoever is president. Jack Balkin, a law professor at Yale, has suggested we are witnessing the bipartisan normalization and legitimization of a national surveillance state like nothing we've ever seen before.
Live stream.
Well, I mean, I hope that this has effect. We live in an environment where, people are so, I can't even think of the word, not even surrounded. We live in an environment that is just basically a media environment, no matter what kind of media it is. And so that's the way that people gauge things, how much play is getting on this, what are people saying on that, but that really is not the important thing. It's like the important thing, in fact, it's like the only maybe someone would care, like, what is Congress doing? That's the important thing.
I mean, is that the only important thing? I mean, is it in terms of, like, Congress' reaction to this?
No, I'm not talking about reaction to this. I'm talking about, this Congress, as far as I can tell, is a criminal enterprise, pure and simple. I mean, this is like the three-card Monte games you no longer have in Times Square. They probably, and I think, to me, they're a cohesive body, and the Democrats and the Republicans. Probably, while everyone's attention is on this, because this is, the kind of thing people like to cover, there's a certain kind of thing to it, they're doing something, and it's not good. Whatever they're doing is wrong. It's kind of. Like when I was a little kid, your parents would say, the kids are too quiet. They're up to something. And so these people are too quiet, they're up to something, and it's
a series of hearings by Frank Church. He warned the country about what would happen if the technology became such. You would have that part of the government, like NSA, having the ability to monitor just about any kind of electronic system and then some in the country. Essentially what would happen is the government is wired in the country for surveillance. That's already in place.
A demonstration of your increasing awareness to be really feeling good. Can recognize this wonderful feeling of being pleased and harmony. This is a demonstration of your increasing wonderful feeling of being encouraging us to go on. Demonstration of your increasing awareness to be really
tell exactly where you are located, what type of operation, approximately being the type of weapons. NSA can also analyze communication signals in order to find out how military organizations overseas are involved in to accomplish their military mission. There's a certain amount of code work done by NSA and its service groups, particularly diplomatic code breaking, although they're not quite as specialized code breaking. A lot of NSA would like to.
Now, you focused on capabilities in the military field, diplomatic field. Does your research suggest that they are only in those fields in the electronic surveillance business?
No, I think that we're beginning to find that NSA and private facilities involved in a wide variety of domestic intelligence gathering intelligence in the United States. What is it? 3-minute national security was the other federal agencies involved in this activity. The research I've been doing is probably just the surface of the domestic intelligence operations.
Give us some idea, speculate a little. Clearly you don't know for sure, but a little bit of speculation is going on under the surface. How broadly do you think their surveillance extends within the United States?
Well, from General Allen's comments today, I think that the communications intelligence franchise, if you will, of NSA can be interpreted by maybe a pair of different experts who are responsible for it to allow them to practice.
You're getting closer to that mirror, about to walk in front of that mirror. At the count of 3, look at your brand new body, turn sideways, and look at your stomach. Lean, flat,
It's not just flatter, it's actually flat, bringing up a feeling of excitement. Yes, clench your right fist. Yes, feel the power of this body. And now imagine yourself
this wonderful
putting on a pair of sneakers, putting on an exercise outfit, and going out and doing the exercise that you are going to do, whether it be walking, whether it be running, whether it be aerobics, whether it be just swimming, whether it be a floor exercise. And imagine yourself again looking in front of your full-length mirror, turning back, looking at the back part of your body, from head to toe, leaner, firmer, tighter, shapelier buttocks.
This has been Mass Hysteria.
Have a good night.